So I'm here at the Minnesota Star Tribune booth with Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and as Lieutenant Governor, it's sort of like a vice president-like position, the sort of second-in-command job. And I'm curious, what advice would you have for Governor Walz or even for Senator Vance about taking on that sort of number two, I guess, role?
Well, we don't have enough time for all the advice I have for Senator Vance. The thing that I would say is just maybe listen more, talk less, is my advice for Senator Vance. But for the governor, I would say keep doing what you're doing. It was a tremendous opportunity that the governor provided for me when he asked me to be his running mate. He's created a space for women to lead, and I think I watch this all of the time. When he leans over and says, "What do you think about that? Do you think that's enough? Do you think this is the right approach?" And so I constantly watch him clear space for women to lead. And in particular for a woman of color to lead. And I think sometimes that is hard to do. He is a humble guy who also understands that there are views and opinions different from his own. For example, I'm Team Pronto-Pup and he is Team Corn Dog. But my advice is just, again, to be yourself. He already is like an incredible cheerleader. You are absolutely seeing the Coach Walz vibes, right, come out. But one of my absolute favorite things about him is that because he is a good teacher, it means he's also a good listener and a good learner. And I have watched him do that all across the state of Minnesota, to hear from people who have different experiences than his own, and being very conscious of the people who are most deeply impacted being at the table and as part of the decision-making process. I think those are things that have served him well and will continue to serve him well in the role of vice president.
So if Governor Walz is elected vice president, that means something for you, I guess. Can you walk us through just what the process is, what's going to happen, how did those dominoes fall?
Sure. So we have 70 days, but who's counting? I'm literally counting every day. 70 days between now and Election Day, and I will be focused on electing Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, keeping the DFL House and making sure that we win the Senate District 45 seat. Thank you, everybody. And so that's just a quick plug to get on the phones, knock on doors, do the work. But what that means is that if he is elected vice president, the Minnesota Constitution says that once he resigns the office of governor to become the vice president, then I will become the governor. Bobby Joe Champion, who is the Senate president, would then become the lieutenant governor. And that is how our Constitution is written. And then the transition would begin. So, right now, we are getting ready for 2025. It is a budget year in the legislature. So all of that work is currently happening anyway. So I feel confident that if I were to become governor, I'm ready for that. Have worked very closely with Governor Walz and feel prepared because he's been a great teacher and mentor. I think his leadership and his thoughtfulness about this transition and supporting Kamala Harris, creating space for a woman to lead is powerful, and I'm just so incredibly grateful for him. And it was, what a moment. And it still is surreal then several nights later to watch the governor come out on stage as a vice presidential candidate. Continues to be this moment where I'm like, that's Tim, right? But he has absolutely earned this spot and this opportunity from the good work that he did in Congress and then as governor, his 24 years of service in the Army National Guard. His whole life has been devoted to service. And so I am just over the moon to watch people across the country learn what I know about Tim Walz. And it was really fun to watch him throw a bag of Doritos over the aisle in the convenience store when he was with Vice President Harris, because snacks are his love language. He always brings snacks to meetings for me, and every time he goes past a butcher shop in greater Minnesota, he always picks up some beef sticks and I will find them like in our shared refrigerator. And he's like, don't forget to get those beef sticks out of the refrigerator that I picked up for you, right, in New Ulm. So that's Tim Walz. He brings snacks.
So you've said you see yourself as a partner in the Walz administration, and you've been able to sort of put your stamp on policies, maybe after some of those field trips, as you put them. What work are you proudest of in this administration?
Oh, man. So, we were really intentional, Governor Walz and myself, when we decided to run together. We launched our ticket almost a full year before Election Day because we wanted people to know what they were going to get. That it was, here was a teacher and a coach and a veteran and someone who represented the 9th largest agricultural district in the country, and a nonprofit executive, a suburban mom, a Native woman, and we've really tried to govern that way too. We may have different lived experiences, but we have shared values. So we have focused on making Minnesota the best place in the country to raise a family. And so all of the policies that we've worked on, I'll be really candid, I checked everything that was on my list off my list. And now we're making a new list about the additional things that we need to do for folks. But as someone who grew up on free and reduced price lunch, as a kid with a different colored lunch ticket, feeding kids breakfast and lunch, I think is one of the most important things that I've ever worked on and we've ever done. Protecting access to reproductive health care is right up there at the top of the list. I want to make sure that my daughter gets to make her own choices about her life and how and when and if she decides to start a family. And then I would say the child tax credit that will lower child poverty by 1/3 in this state is something that I'm incredibly proud of. So we've done a lot of good work in partnership with the legislature. There's a spotlight now that's on Minnesota, and we're talking to folks about it all across the country. But really, it's just been, I think, also just like being decent to folks is something that I'm proud of.
So one of the agencies that we're following really closely is the Office of Cannabis Management, which still doesn't have a director. What's going on with that? What's the latest?
So the latest is that Charlene Briner is doing an incredible job. She is an amazing public servant. I have worked with her in many ways in her time at the state, and we want to make sure that we get it right. Right now, Charlene is doing an incredible job, and so we are still in that process, but we want to make sure that we pick the right person. That team over there, I think, is doing a good job. We've rolled out lots of things while she's been in leadership, so just stay tuned.
And I also wanted to ask, while we're on the cannabis subject, what's happening with negotiations with tribal nations around cannabis regulations, especially around sales to non-tribal dispensaries and dispensaries outside tribally regulated land?
So that all is in process. We are working on compacts with the tribes. We have 11 Native nations who share their geography with the state of Minnesota. And so that means 11 different tribal governments that we work with. And we wanted to be very clear on the front end that those partnerships are incredibly important. So setting aside a separate compacting process, it's in the works right now. It's a lot of nerdy policy and a lot of lawyers talking to each other. So that's in the works, and each individual tribe will be different.
All right, and then getting back to national politics, I guess, again, hard to think past this fall, but I'd imagine you are thinking about what happens if Walz is or isn't elected, if he loses or if he doesn't run for governor again, or if he wins and doesn't run for governor again, of course. What does your career look like in 2026 and beyond?
So I could have never expected that we would be here in this moment. So I would just tell you that whatever it is, if the people of Minnesota want me to continue to serve, I am absolutely open to that. But here's what I know. Regardless of my occupation, my vocation is always the same: to make sure that people are seen, heard, and valued. And so I've done that as the executive director of Children's Defense Fund, when I was in the legislature, as lieutenant governor. So that won't change. But I think if anybody is trying to predict the future right now, after the last 2 months that we've had, I would say they're wrong. So I'm open to serve, and I think a lot of times women are expected to say like, oh gosh, I don't know, right? And I'm not going to say that. I'll say that if people want me to lead, I will continue to lead, and have been so blessed to be able to be in this role, doing this work, and just feel really fortunate.
All right. Then the last one for you, really difficult question. Since we're at the state fair, walk us through your day. What foods are we eating? What are activities are happening? What's on your agenda?
Okay. So I love the state fair more than anything else in the whole world. It is, people talk about holiday time being the most wonderful time of the year. It's not. It's the state fair. And so it's a little different now because I come right as the lieutenant governor. But I get to come to the fair almost every day. So to not be missed, have a great day. To not be missed is deep fried pickles. We are going to try the fried ranch. I don't know if any of you have had it yet. Yeah, okay, all right. So mixed reviews over here. We'll figure it out. I always do a Pronto Pop. Sometimes I do one every day that I'm here. And Yield Mill is my favorite. Everybody needs to see a wooden leprechaun covered in glitter. It's amazing. But it's really the people. The people are the best part of the fair. Visiting, the huge measuring sticks. But tomorrow is the best event of the fair. Tomorrow night. Do you know what it is? My cousin Molly was here. She knows what it is. It is the llama costume contest. It is put on by 4-H'ers. It's incredible. There are themes. Last year we saw Winnie the Pooh, Ken and Barbie. I assume we will maybe see Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in llama costume style, but it's incredible. It's my favorite thing. I love the fair.
All right, great. Thank you so much for your time, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan.
Thanks, everybody. Have fun.